The Republic has fallen. The traitor is on the ground. Sorry, I needed to end the last episode. It took a while longer. Something other came up when I answered the door. No, we're not going to kill him. A swift death is for those who deserve mercy. You do not.
Are you just gonna watch me bleed out?
I just think you're perfectly capable of dying on your own.
It's finally over. It almost seems unreal.
What a relief.
Yeah. Maybe now we can stop looking over our shoulder.
You have violated every single rule we set out to protect in the first place. You have killed Romans. Senators, even.
I'm not proud of myself, but the Parkai have steered me this way. It is foolish to resist their plans.
There's one thing you get to decide for yourself now.
We must submit ourselves to the judgment of the Senate, as we discussed. Only then can we begin to undo some of the damage we have caused.
Are you stupid? Did you hit your head in battle? We will all be killed.
Not all of us. He will probably be condemned to death indeed, but we will not be punished as harshly.
We should not get punished at all. We should take over Rome and live like kings.
The Anira is right. Surrender will only lead to execution.
But, Magister, surely morals dictate that he should surrender. Doing anything else would be immoral, and thus make him a lesser man.
He is like my own child. He would be a lesser man, but a man who is alive.
They will not just let us go. We all attacked.
Well, I certainly do not want to be executed.
May I remind you what you have just said about the expected behavior of a moral individual?
I don't consider myself a particularly moral man yet.
I don't care about the philosophy of it. If you stay here, more people will die and the chaos will never end. We don't have to turn ourselves in if you're afraid of the consequences. I'm sure Cleopatra will protect you if you flee to Egypt.
No. You are right. I have violated every virtue and every tenet of our society. This was all about making sure Lurko faced justice. He has. Disband the Legion. I will submit myself to the Senate.
I admire your principled stance, Domine. But do you understand the consequences? They are likely to execute you. Are you sure you want to do this?
You owe nothing to Rome. This city owes you everything. Let us just leave then, if you will not take power. Leave with me.
We have one problem. It's not only our life. We would condemn all of them to death. It is our duty to return Rome to a republic. We can also do that from exile. If we stay, all of our friends will die. That is a burden I cannot bear, so maybe exile is a better choice. I'll disappear and never be seen again.
Wale, my friend. It's been a fun ride.
It has been glorious.
I'll make the arrangements, Domine.
I'll do this on my own, Seneros. You do not have to call me Dominos anymore. I release you.
But I was always free, child. I chose to serve you. Nothing can change my mind.
Well, the die has been cast.
There are some who say it was a sudden change of heart that turned a would-be tyrant from his throne. Most accept the common story. A man pushed to his very limit by the machinations of a corrupt consul. A republic on the brink of becoming an empire, vulnerable to the ambitions of unscrupulous men. A desperate, unlawful action that saved the republic at the cost of one man's career and reputation. Although in one sense the legatus never returned to Rome, in another, greater sense, he never left. With his earth-shaking actions, he had set Rome upon a course that would guide it through history for centuries to come. It is said that he retired to a palatial estate in Egypt, overlooking the lush banks of the Nile. He had turned his back on the republic that he had saved, but he became instead a close and trusted advisor to Queen Cleopatra, under whose rule Egypt soon regained its independence and sovereignty from Rome. As his dominus left Rome in exile, old Cineros chose to stay behind. There was just enough time for the Servus to get the manumission he had been promised before he was left to his own devices. For a time, he stayed with Claudiana at her invitation, until he had earned enough denarii as a teacher of Greek to get a small place of his own. She had offered him money, but he had politely declined. Cineros still had many powerful and influential friends in the city, and thanks to them, he enjoyed access to well-stocked libraries and well-educated conversation. Ultimately, what gave Cineros peace was the knowledge that he had long since unburdened himself with the guilt of the mistakes of his youth. In his final days, he was able to return to Greece at last, and died there, satisfied. When his friends left Rome, Caeso stayed behind in the city to settle down with Lucia and their daughter. Though their relationship was distant at first, the shared love they felt for their daughter soon brought them close, and eventually they had more children together. To his surprise, Caeso took well to the quiet life and to fatherhood, and on the few occasions when he did feel that old lust for adventure bubble back to the surface, he would leave Rome for a time and visit his friends in exile, who were always glad to see him. Callida had stood by her companions through thick and thin, but now it was time for her to stand by herself. As they left Rome, she stayed behind and settled down in the city that had once rejected her. Now, for the first time ever, she felt at home there. Though many still looked askance at her for what they perceived as her unwomanly pursuits, she had learned to disregard their judgment, and she had plenty of friends in the city who now respected her for who she was and what she had achieved. Bestia returned to Africa to look for his sister again. Eventually, he did find her, and together they returned to Mauritania, where they settled down in an idyllic village and started new families of their own. In this new, quiet life, Bestia learned the true value of happiness. Deianira followed her beloved into exile in Egypt, where a life of luxury awaited them in Cleopatra's royal court. Despite her aversion to remaining in one place for long, she took well to the luxury and opulence of the palace, and eventually she and her beloved journeyed to Shirthia together, where Deianira reconnected with her family. Claudiana lived for many more years. She had many friends in Rome, and her life was peaceful and comfortable until her final days. On her deathbed, she revealed that she had once been very close indeed with Lucullus, and that indeed the true family name of her children was Licymnia. Defeated once more by Rome, Mithridates escaped to the lands north of the Black Sea in the hope that he could raise a new army, but the locals soon rebelled against his rule. Incapable of taking his own life by poison, in the end, Mithridates died by the sword of his bodyguard. With Zenobia in charge of Musia, it became once more a peaceful part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. With her focus on trade and strong ties to the neighboring regions, her people enjoyed a period of great prosperity. Without the leadership of Damianos, the rebellion of his gladiators soon spiraled out of control, beginning what became known as the Servile War. Escaped slaves terrorized the Roman citizens throughout Thracia until the wealthy senator Crassus brutally defeated them and crucified thousands along the road towards Rome. Lunia's death sent Nazarmanes spiraling into a fractious conflict as greedy elders from minor tribes attempted to fill the void her passing had left behind. Though Queen Cleopatra attempted to bring the region under control, her attentions were too divided, the conflict too great for her to manage. Rome was forced to send more legions to enforce peace and stability with an iron fist. Though Africa Proconsularis eventually saw peace again, the traditions and culture of the Berber population were lost forever. Queen Cleopatra Philopator was, from the day of her coronation, a greatly beloved Queen of Egypt. Revered and admired by the population, she spent many of her days traveling up and down the Nile to visit her subjects and address their troubles and concerns. Under her rule, Egypt remained a powerful and prosperous nation and a strong ally of Rome. The fruits of the Nile flowed freely to the people of the Republic. After traveling all across Africa for many years, going wherever her instincts took her, Raya eventually returned to Memphis and to the service of Tener at the Temple of Ubasti. When her mentor passed away, Raya naturally assumed the mantle as High Priestess of the Cat Goddess. Though the old faith was dwindling, she was greatly beloved by many, and her temple prospered, always home to many, many, many cats. With Diwytirchus once more assuming rulership of the Aedui, the tribe maintained a strong alliance with Rome, and through it, they greatly prospered. With the aid of the Aedui, Gallia slowly unified under Roman rule, and civilization soon began to creep into those lands in the form of paved roads, aqueducts, and fortified Roman towns. In his old age, did the Druid ever regret hastening the absorption and suppression of his own faith and culture? We will never know. The defeat and death of Vercingetorix had reduced the once mighty Awerni tribe to a myriad bickering chieftains. Without his vision, his charisma, and his resolve, there was no unifying figure to rally around, and no way for Gallia to resist their slow but inevitable assimilation into Rome. Perhaps if Vercingetorix had lived, some of their culture or religion might have survived in some form. But surely they must be grateful that civilization at last was brought to their lands. In this work, I have done my best to recount the history of this fascinating period, truthfully and accurately. As I have scoured the sources and spoken to many who claimed to have heard the story from someone who was there at the time, one thing that has stood out to me is the pivotal moments along the way where our story could have turned out very differently. Might the legatus and his friends have remained in Rome to influence its politics in the years to come? Certainly when Legio Victrix crossed the Rubicon, the only way to remain in Rome would have been as its emperor. But perhaps if a different decision had been made on that fateful bridge, a more peaceful resolution would have been possible. One should always take care when second-guessing historical figures with the benefit of hindsight. Here in the present, there will never truly be a way for you to know how you might have acted if you had lived in the past. Nor can you ever be certain how history will remember you.
We're going to cut this one short. We're going to load the save game, and then we are going to cross the Rubicon peacefully. And then we're going to watch the credits. I believe this is nearly the perfect ending. Even though, yes, the culture, Aedui and Egypt, but considering the grand scheme of things, that turned out very well. So, we'll meet again. That time, next time. We're going to try peaceful resolution. We're not going to walk Caesar's path.